Hi, I'm Nan Simonson. Do you ever have one of those weeks where you think, wow, the sun's shining really brightly on me this week? That's how I feel. 2 days ago, I turned 72, and Chef AJ interviewed me, and I did some recipes, and I got to talk about my passion, having written Aging Powerfully, my book, and the audiobook having come out. I get to talk about the pillars of lifestyle medicine that can help keep us healthy for decades. And then this week, on just a few days from now, Chef AJ is hosting a summit in Sacramento, which is where she lives. And my husband and I are going there for the summit, and we were invited to her home the night before for dinner. So what a week. Well, we're leaving tomorrow. We're traveling tomorrow. We're going to drive. It's about a 7-hour drive. I live in Southern California, and that's Northern California. And when I travel, I bring food. Not because I mistrust anybody's or distrust anybody else's food, but I kind of do because I don't know what they put in it. And almost everywhere that you get fast food, restaurant food, packaged food, they can't help themselves. They put a mass of salt, oil, and sugar. Just look at the ingredients. If you see 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 grams of fat, they've added, oh gosh, 80, 90 calories, 100 calories, a tablespoon, 2 or 3, of fat to something that doesn't need it at all. And an example of that is what I'm going to make today. So what I do is I bring things with me. And for example, I know that we're going to be traveling through lunch tomorrow. And I thought, why don't I just make something now that I can do for dinner, have for dinner, and then bring this with me so that when we pull up somewhere, maybe to charge the car, ours is an electric vehicle, mine is, that we can sit and have our lovely lunch. If it's not raining, we can sit under a tree and just have a marvelous, I'll call it adventure. So I'm making something that I hope you see the value of during the fall, well, winter season now, where this is January 10th, and, or is it the 11th? And I'm using butternut squash and apples and currants and pomegranate and kale and quinoa. This is a salad. I hope you like what you see. First thing I'm going to do is make my dressing for my apple, quinoa, butternut squash, and kale salad. And what I'm using for the dressing, because this is going to be a slightly sweet dressing, instead of maple syrup, certainly instead of sugar, I'm going to use a whole food sweetener. What is that? Date paste. I take a pound of dates, I put water in them, let them soak it in, pour some out, whir it in the blender, add just a tiny bit more of that sort of sweet water to make it, well, a paste. And this is what I want. I want a paste that I then put into half-cup containers, put in the freezer, pop them out of the container, and just put them in baggies. A Ziploc baggie that is freezer tight, freezer safe, or a silicone baggie. But I sort of lightly wrap that little bar in parchment paper so I can get them out easily, open them, put them in the jar that sits in my refrigerator, from which I got that all out in almost one breath. Okay, so I have date paste here, and you'll see all the amounts in the recipe. I juiced lime. You could do lemon, you could do lime. I just love lime, especially once I've zested it. So let me show you something. What is zesting and what is a zester? Well, here's the lime. You don't cut and juice the lime before you zest, because then when you're zesting, you don't have a firm surface to work with. The thing keeps collapsing as you're doing it. And what you do to zest, and this is what I got from the 2 limes, and they were this size lime. They're not the little Mexican limes that are tiny. They're sort of a medium-sized lime. I roll them like I do or with lemons. I just kind of lightly roll them. That breaks up their cells and makes them that much more, I'll call it juicing friendly. And using a microplane This is good for, I could do ginger with this. I can do any kind of rind, because what you don't want is a lot of the white pith. That is a little bitter. So what I do want though is this marvelous outer green on any citrus, i.e. orange on an orange, yellow on a lemon, green on a lime. And you have a little bit of the citrus oil in there. And when you do this, it is so aromatic and it adds a lot of flavor. Again, you don't want to get the white pith, you just want that green. Now, I have a nice amount, and I'll put my microplane away and cut the lime in half. If I were doing a lot, I would use maybe a juicer, but instead I'm going to do these two halves the way I did the other two limes, and that is right into my measuring cup using this press. You can see the juice just comes out easily. Now, I always sort of fold it in half and then juice again, because there's always a little bit more to be had. And then I'll kind of turn it around there. See that little bit more that came out? That's at least a teaspoon. And then another one. What I'm aiming for is a half a cup of lemon or lime juice. I was able to get limes, so I used the limes. If I wasn't, I would use lemon. And the lemons I have happen to be Meyer lemons. I grow them. And in Southern California, yep, we do. And they're just delicious. A Meyer lemon is a hybrid between a lemon and a orange, a mandarin. Okay, that's that. And do I have a half a cup yet? Nope. So I am going to, yeah, barely. But just to show you what I do, this is the juice. Look how much that is from one Meyer lemon, because they're rather large. And I'm going to add just a touch more to bring it up to a half cup. Is it? Maybe I read it wrong. No, I can put a little bit more. Okay. So a half a cup of citrus. I could have put some lemon, lime, and orange and made it a citrusy dressing rather than just a lemon base or lime base. So play around with these things. I'm going to add that to the date paste. I'm going to then add, because I like a little bit of tang in my dressings, I'll put, and I really like Dijon mustard this way. This is Dijon mustard whole grain. So you have mustard seeds in here. It's also a little less, has less sodium. You can get sodium-free mustard also, but this has less sodium if you have a lot of seeds, because the seeds displace the ground and the ground material, and also the moist part that they are going to add the salt to. In other words, you've got some solids in there. And then I wish, here, smell that. Okay. And this is going to, you should play around. Play around with making a citrus dressing and tasting it on its own, and then adding some zest. Now, you can add too much zest. The zest can be biting if you add too much zest. And I'm going to also add just a touch of dry basil. If you smell dry basil, there's a touch of almost a fennel, almost a, not licorice, but like a fennel. And I break that up. I want it to be broken up. I don't want a bunch of big pieces in there. And you can do this easily with the dry. Okay. And then, this is going to surprise you. I'm putting in 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So we have some really interesting, I'm going to call it winter flavors, brightened up by those citrus which some people would call summer flavors. I'm going to see what I think. Oh, that is so much fun. Put some black pepper in it. Some people at this point would add some salt. I'm not. I go with as little salt as possible. So let me make my salad. First of all, I'm going to, this is 5.5 cups of shredded kale. I just get a bag of this, already washed, already shredded, and organic at Trader Joe's. And you can get washed, cleaned, and chopped greens at a number of stores. I live near a Trader Joe's, and it's easy for me to go there and get what I want. I'm going to put a glove on simply because if I'm going to massage the kale, what does massaging kale do? It breaks down its roughness a little bit. It releases some of its moisture. That doesn't mean loses it. It just kind of releases it, softens it, makes it a little bit more open to the dressing seeping in and giving it a, I'll use again that word, a softer texture. Okay, so I'm going to put, and this amount of dressing is way too much for the salad. But my feeling is if I'm making dressing, especially if I'm about to travel, I'm going to use what I want for this salad, but I'm also going to bring some with me in a little twist top jar, because when I stop somewhere and they want to give me an oily dressing, I don't add oil to my food. Doesn't mean I don't have fat. I have nuts and I have seeds. I'll use tahini, I'll use nut butters, but I don't add oils because of, well, watch some of my videos on nutrition and you'll hear why. I don't want the calories. Not that I count calories, I don't. But I don't want all that fat that just is hidden and means nothing in terms of taste and acceptance. But by the same token, I also believe it's not a whole food that's plant-based. A lot of the oils, see, now I'm telling you, are processed with all kinds of strong chemicals. Not olive oil, of course, but by cold-pressed, first-pressed virgin olive oil. But we don't need that. If I'm going to get what olive oil gives me, resveratrol, etc., or is that in wine? Grapes. Some of the other we'll call it chemicals, those few phytochemicals you get in an olive oil, give me olives. Give me whole foods. Okay, you can tell that's my theme. Now I'm putting in, that was about 5 cups. And again, you get to choose as you make a recipe what you want in terms of volume. It's not etched in stone. So what I have is I have a kale salad with a lot of quinoa. What does quinoa do? Add a whole bunch of protein. It's a complete protein. In other words, it has all of the essential amino acids, the 9 essential amino acids. It's got all of them. It's high in fiber, high in protein, and just yummy. And I make a big batch of it and I eat it through the week. I'm bringing some with me. I'll freeze some so when I get home from my trip, I can just take some out, just like my oat groats yesterday. I made a big pot of oat groats in my Instapot. You can see that on my website, and I talk about how to do that, or on YouTube. And then I freeze some so I can just take it out and use it when I get home and I don't have to make any more. So what else am I going to add to this? I could add anything, but this is what I'm adding. I'm adding apple. I'm adding some sliced scallions, meaning green onions. And that apple was about 1.5 cups, which represented a nice size, well, not quite a full, about a medium, a large medium, and I like Honeycrisp. So that was a Honeycrisp apple. I'm going to put in some currants. What are currants? You know what? I'm going to switch to a spoon. Ta-da, done. Okay, what are currants? They are a raisin-like thing, but they're teeny. So it's a different thing than a raisin, but they're very much flavored like a raisin. It's a dry a dry fruit, like a raisin is a dried grape. Well, this is a dried plant fruit. Nice, but the value of all those little teeny ones is that you get more of that flavor in more bites instead of fewer raisins. So I'm adding about a quarter of a cup. It could be more, it could be less, it could be not at all. So if you don't have any of this, don't think, oh, I can't make that salad, or oh, I've got to run to the store. And then this is the part I really like. Before I came on, I had purchased a container from Trader Joe's, 20 ounce, of hand-cut butternut squash cubes. And I could have easily bought a butternut squash. I would put it in the microwave about 2 to 3 minutes to soften the skin so that I could peel it, because they can be really hard. Then I would have chopped it. Then I would have roasted it after I seeded it. I didn't want to do any of that. I've got a lot to do before I leave. And so instead I bought these hand cut, and I even cut them, a couple of the pieces that weren't uniformly sized. I even cut them a little bit smaller and roasted it. So at about 385, actually it would be 400, but I did 385 on my convection, the convection setting of my Breville hot air oven. And I put a little bit of pepper on it, a little bit of Benson's Table Tasty, and I'm not going to use all of this because I want to take this with me when we travel, because that gives me one more, I'll call it snack, or one more thing to add to our soup meal the night we get there. We'll be getting there on Thursday evening, and rather than running right back out to a restaurant, sitting, I will be, I'm bringing a frozen bit, a frozen container of the soups that I make and put in my library. I call it my freezer in the garage, my library, because I go in there and I think I'll take one of these and these and these. And I took out, for tonight, for example, I'll show you in a minute, I took out a African sweet potato and peanut stew. So we're having that, and then we're having this, and easy dinner, and the rest of this will go with me on my trip. So what else am I adding? I love to add a little extra color, and it's winter, and this is when I can find these pomegranates. And pomegranates are, of course, the little areoles are just, that's what the fruit is in the pomegranate. Go online, it'll show you how to get that out easily. I cut them in half, put it in my hand, take a wooden spoon and pound, and then let it fall into water, and the white pith comes up and the seeds go down. It doesn't take forever, and I did 3 or 4 of them because I got them at a great price. You can, when they're ready on the trees, and then freeze them. So this came out of my freezer, and then I'm going to add, and I'm going to do this last minute. I could put it in now, but no, because the moisture in here will soften them. These are pumpkin seeds, and I toast them. I buy raw pumpkin seeds. I toast maybe a cup or 2 at a time. They're crunchy, they're delicious. Pumpkin seeds are high in protein, they are high in fiber, and they're quite delicious. I put this out because I wanted to show you, instead of apple, I could have used the Fuyu persimmon, but this one's gotten too soft, and they get soft rather quickly in the salad. Apple will stay crisp. But if I were eating this right away or serving it to a party, and I've done this with this dish, I used these slices of the fuyu, and fuyu is meant to eat crisp like an apple, as opposed to the pomegranate that's shaped like a heart, which you have to let get very, very ripe. Otherwise, it has tannins that create a real bitterness in your mouth. So when I'm about to serve this, I'll sprinkle the pumpkin seed on. Now I'm going to add just a little more dressing. Just a little. Because there's so much moisture here. I think that's about it. And I'll taste to be sure it's just the way I like it. But isn't this a marvelous, I'm going to say winter salad, but you may be watching this some summer many, many years from now. And you can get all of these ingredients in the summer. You can get well, you can get anything anywhere just about, because they just get them from other areas. These were all fresh from our area. And look, isn't that a beautiful salad? You have protein, you have greens, you have fruit, you have citrus, and you want to have citrus, in other words, vitamin C, when you have greens that have calcium and iron, because it makes them more bioavailable. Okay, that's all I have to say. My name is Nan Simonson. I wrote Aging Powerfully. It is now an audiobook. It's all about aging with power by making choices, lifestyle choices about what we eat, how we move, how we connect with others, and how we learn to de-stress and sleep well. And I talk all about that in my book. Look for me on Amazon, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and have a great day, because I know I'm going to. Bye-bye.